Hey guys, what's going on? This is Otis here, and I've been flying the plane a little bit more lately just because the helicopter is basically useless for me. And I've been having fun. I've been getting better and stuff, and I ended up only going 6-2 on this map, and I was #1 on the team. So I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, just to show what kind of team I was on, or what, to only get 6 kills in the plane and get first place. Of course, you get a lot of disables and stuff when you're shooting planes down. But there's a few things I want to talk about too before I want to get in my commentary. Yesterday was my very first day of live streaming. I was on Twitch TV, doing it over there, and it was pretty successful. It was about 95% successful. I've messed up with the first game and a half and stuff with the audio, but I'm gonna have that link in the description. I'm going to be live streaming probably about 2 or 3 times a week. I would like to do. And the guaranteed day that I'll live stream is Sundays and Mondays for sure, and the other days of the week would be kind of iffy and up for grabs. But Sundays is pretty much going to be a DayZ stream day, or I'm just going to be playing DayZ from in the morning when I wake up and watching football and just playing DayZ all day, which will be pretty fun. I got my character decked out right now, and then my buddy, we're going to get him hopefully decked out this weekend. We're just going to go around just trying to kill as many people as we can, which should be pretty fun and pretty entertaining and stuff. So that'll be a good thing to watch. And so basically when I do live stream, I'm gonna be posting like a 30-second video just saying that I'm live streaming. Have the link in the description, and come on over and join. We had a good amount of people. I think there was only 20 or 30 people, but it was pretty funny in the beginning of the live stream and stuff. I had a good amount of fails and whatnot in there. So I think in Monday I'll be on the Xbox live streaming. So I was on the PlayStation this last Monday. So it's fun. It's interesting doing that stuff and everything. But what I wanted to talk about with today's commentary was jobs and careers, because there's a difference between two of them also, or between both of them. And so a job is basically just something that you're going to be doing for your high school and college days, something that's going to be basically low hours and low wages, something like that, or maybe even high hours and low wages, just depending on the type of job you actually get. And then a career is something you're going to be doing the rest of your life. It's just going to be something that it's your 9-to-5 job, and hopefully too that you can at least try to pick something that you enjoy too. And I'll get into both of them too. I'm going to start with jobs first. And so when you're picking a job, usually you'll pick one in high school, college, something that you just need maybe a little bit of money here between like a class or two, or maybe on the weekends and stuff. And at least in America, typically what your jobs are going to be is something like a fast food joint, obviously, just because we're so fat. We have one on every corner, so it's obviously the most easiest job to do, and it's the most common job, at least especially for teenagers in America too, depending on kind of where you are too. If you're in like more of a rural or city town area, it just kind of depends too. But one thing I always got to suggest and tell people too is just don't get stressed out too much about your jobs. Of course you're gonna get stressed out with your jobs, just because naturally that's how it is. Just getting stressed out is it's so easy to get stressed out. There's so many things to get stressed out about: work, school, life, just in general. It's just everything's just very stressful too. And so one thing I always suggest to people is, if your job is too stressful, if you're on like a gas station duty doing like nighttime, which I always hear is like one of the worst jobs, if you're doing like a janitorial job or something that just you are just absolutely completely miserable, just quit it. I mean, usually for jobs you'll be able to get them pretty easily. They're something that requires very little experience, very little work. They're usually unskilled positions at places, and eventually too, maybe for the most part, they're just temporary. There's something that maybe you're supposed to work for like a year or two, and that's it. You're supposed to be moving on to your career and stuff. And so some certain jobs can move into a career depending on how you're working and stuff. I know for an example, like right now with my job at UPS, I'm loading the trucks. It's part-time work. I don't get paid really much, and we don't get a lot of hours, at least until the Christmas time. But if you're there for 5 to 8 years or whatever, you can become a driver and instantly make 60, 70, or about like $70,000, $80,000 a year, just driving around, tossing around boxes for your life, which is pretty good. And you're driving around, you're not stuck in an office, and so it's something that I've at least looked for in the future to possibly do. And so what I want to get to now is careers, at least. So first thing, when you're going and looking at careers, you've got to try to find something that you enjoy, that you could see yourself doing every day for the rest of your life, or not every day, but Monday through Friday, typically for your normal average job. And that's something you got to watch out for too. A lot of people think, I want to do this, I want to do that, but when you actually go and get some experience in the field, maybe like a perfect example of this is one of my friends wanted to be a physical therapy person, and that's what he thought he wanted to do. And so he went to college. He was in his semester. He started doing some internships at some physical therapy places, and after the very first day, he's all, fuck this, I am not going to be a physical therapist. This is just absolutely completely opposite of what I thought it was going to be, what I wanted to do. And so that's something you really got to take into consideration too. One of the biggest things that I would probably say would be my consideration, at least, would be how much can you make in that career, advancing, how much do you basically start out at, where are the jobs located at too. That's a very big thing when you want to look at towards a career too. Just because if there's a whole bunch of jobs in a certain area, maybe in like Alaska or something, where that's the type of field you want to get into, but you absolutely hate cold weather, you can't stand it, that might not be a very good career path for you, because you might have fun at the job, but when you're not at a job, you're just going to be absolutely miserable in those conditions in that type of area too. And another thing too, so you need like a lot of sunlight, you need a lot of daylight. Moving to Oregon where it basically rains 300 days out of the year is not going to be a good option for you, just because you're going to be miserable. And just a little side note too, a lot of my commentaries, and if you play with me too, I always knock on Oregon and the South too, just because I can relate to both those places the best. My girlfriend's from Oregon. I've been there multiple times. It's a great state and stuff. It's some place that I always knock on, and the South too, because I grew up in Tennessee, which is at the top of the South basically, and it's just the culture and stuff. And so that's how come I always go and end up ripping on the South and Oregon. If you're playing with me, or even in my commentaries too, I do little subtle attacks on the South in Oregon all the time, which is. Yeah, but okay, enough getting sidetracked with that. But and so definitely my friend's dad too. He was growing up. He loved playing the trumpet. He was a very good musician, and he was traveling and stuff, but he wasn't making that much money. And he's always talked to me about when you go and you get a career, he's like, I love doing the trumpet and stuff. I love playing instruments. But when it comes down to it, it's not going to pay the bills. I mean, you better hope you marry someone that can pay the bills if you want to play the trumpet for the rest of your life, just because it's something that just won't really work too well. And so he ended up going to becoming a stockbroker. It's not the best job in the world. He has great hours, though. He works from like 6 in the morning to 3. So it's just, you're basically leaving before the traffic is out there on the freeways, and you're coming home when the freeway's there, and he makes ridiculous money for doing nothing, for basically just managing other people's money. He makes just a ton of money. And so that was something too where he started out as a job. He started out just in the mailroom. He had absolutely zero experience and just worked his way up in the company, having no college education. And so that's something, another example too of maybe possibly becoming a career. And that's just something you have to look at too when you're going to get a job. You got to look at the type of jobs in your area. I know, like in the Midwest, for example, the only type of jobs they have would be working on a farm, maybe picking some corn, something like that. So you just kind of got to look at the area too, for where you are, and get a suitable job for yourself. I mean, no, pretty much like 9 out of 10 people are going to hate their jobs and stuff, but you got to do some research on the job. I mean, it's just, what I would highly suggest is maybe have like 3 or 4 careers in mind, at least in your high school and stuff, and just look at all the facts. Look at how much money you could possibly make starting out. Look how much you can make at like an average like type of level, maybe a few years of experience. Where are the jobs at? Because that is a huge part too, because some certain jobs you don't make that much money, but they might be located in like a major city, Los Angeles, New York or something. You might have to be located, an hour or 2 outside of town. You have to commute every day, so you got to be remembering that too, that you might lose 2 or 3 hours just driving time, just driving to your job and to your home, because you might not be able to live in the city right away when you first start out in your career too. And that's another thing you have to keep in mind also. But these are just some of the suggestions that I can highly recommend trying. It's just something you're gonna have to figure out, look around. I mean, the best thing, like pretty much like what I wanted to do is I wanted to be a police officer. I've always wanted to be a police officer, and I got into the Explorers program when I was about 17, so I got my foot in the door. I got to see what everything was going on with the police, and saying, yeah, I want to do this job. And you've also got to look at too for recession proof, basically, since everyone always thought like police jobs or recession proof, and they are and they aren't too. But basically what ended up happening was I got hired through a police department, and I was about to go through an academy, and the police agency said, we're gonna have to actually let you go just because the city's budget, we have to cut 10 police officers. And so just being hired, basically I ended up being cut. And so I'm gonna probably have a commentary on that soon, maybe one day, about my experience of going through getting hired and then basically getting laid off right away, which was not fun. It was definitely an interesting experience to go through, but that's another thing you gotta look for too, is how much can you get laid off. I know a lot of jobs in the career place that are advancing right now is technology, obviously, of course, things with the internet, things with phones, something like that could be a good field that you can get into. But you also got to remember where you might move to. You might have to move to, Los Angeles, San Diego, depending on whatever kind of field you're actually getting into. But just keep those things in mind when you're actually looking for a career, maybe planning on things, maybe even just looking for a job. Just keep in mind, how much does it pay? Where do I have to move to? What kind of weather would it be? How much, how much is the cost of living in the area does too? How much it is? Because if you're going into the South, where basically things just cost absolutely nothing, where it costs it's like $1 for like a gallon of gas, but you go to Los Angeles and it's like $4 a gallon of gas. You just gotta remember that too, with how much you make, how much the area that you're gonna be living in is. And so that's just some things to keep in mind, at least when you're going through your looking at your potential careers and stuff. But hopefully you guys enjoyed this, and thanks for watching.